The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of Green Acres and our guests. These general gardening tips and suggestions may work for you, as well as those from alternative sources. When using any garden products or tools, read and follow all label directions. And learn how to make your yard summer strong at bewatersmart.info.
The Green Acres Garden Podcast is the podcast dedicated to helping gardeners hone their growing skills while we celebrate our love of plants. So whether you're new to growing or a seasoned gardener, you're sure to learn something new. Join the fun as we have conversations with world-class growers, passionate green thumbs, and professional garden experts from Green Acres Nursery and Supply. Listen every week. We'll answer questions you didn't know you had. Way we grow. Hey there, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Green Acres Garden Podcast, the home for people who just love plants and gardening and growing. I am one of those people. My name's Kevin Jordan. I am the Caladium Cowboy, the Dirt Dude. I love growing plants. By day, I'm a teacher of horticulture, and by night, I have the honor of being here with you and talking about podcasting about gardening and growing. It doesn't get much better than that. We have a great episode for you this week. I didn't even realize how much I was going to love this episode until I sat down with this week's guest and got to meet her and talk with her. Really, really cool stuff. Before we get into that, I got to tip my straw hat to my buddy in my co-pilot seat there, riding shotgun. He's the ace of audio, Austin Blank. How's it going there, Austin?
Hello, Kevin, and welcome back to all of our listeners. It's the best time of the week. It's garden podcast time. And Kevin, it's May now.
Busy,
and I
busy
know
season.
We've been busy, and I love asking you about your garden updates. So, anything new and exciting in your garden? What you been doing, bud?
We at the school, we pulled out a couple of unproductive fruit trees that were a little sickly, some stone fruits. We had two of them, got them years ago, and they were kind of a gift, but they just never really thrived for us. One of them had some peach borer damage early on, and they were doing okay, but I figured, hey, let's pull these out and start fresh. We replaced one of them with a beautiful Granny Smith apple. Cannot wait. Those are really good for baking with.
Okay.
And so I'm hoping that in the fall, we can have a harvest, maybe eat some fresh with some peanut butter, but then maybe really make some pies and do some fun stuff with the culinary students.
Is that the kind of apple that's in an apple pie?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
You can use different varieties, but that is
I think of that one as being sour,
you would think, but it sweetens up. It holds its body. It doesn't turn to mush when it gets cooked.
That's cool.
So it's really interesting, all the different types of apples. There's thousands and thousands of cultivated varieties. And some of my newest favorites in the stores are like Sugar Bee and Cosmic Crisp. But I'm telling you, I'm a fan of the classics. I love a good Granny Smith, Pink Ladies.
I feel like when I ask people their favorite apple, that it's always Granny Smith.
You know, we did a taste test at our school. We got like 8 or 9 different types of apples and then did a taste test. And that one was like in the honorable mention. It was like everybody kind of always liked it, but it was never the favorite. But it had like the majority of like, it got votes. It did really well. I think Sugar Bee might have been number one.
Really? Okay.
Which essentially it's just has a very high sugar content.
Sure. What's not
But
to
for
like?
us, we love our apples. The Granny Smiths, like I said, the Pink Ladies, another warm season variety that I love growing here. But we also planted a mandarin, a tango mandarin. It's seedless, easy to peel, thin skin, and it is a late season mandarin. Whereas the Satsuma, also seedless and delicious, is early season. These ones come on in late. Actually, we planted it today, and it still had fruit on it.
Very cool.
Unripe fruit. So it goes in through April sometimes.
Dang.
March and April.
So
pretty cool.
is that that's going to extend your mandarin season?
Absolutely. So I think we'll start in like end of November-ish, November.
And go till now. Wow.
Yes. We have a few varieties.
Cool.
So been busy. Of course, tomatoes, peppers going in. We're adjusting. I would suggest this is something to have on our listeners' radar, whether it's your lawn, your landscape, your drip, or whatever. A really good time of the year to kind of reevaluate your drips, your irrigation system, rather. How long are you running it? Are there any breaks in it? Great time to make repairs, but also adjust that timer. We've been having some fluctuating weather. A few days ago, it was kind of cool and almost rainy. Now I was getting a tan out there in a few minutes, so it's going to get warm quick. So a great time to kind of consider what you're doing with your irrigation. But Austin, I got to ask you. I know you've been really busy bouncing around from nursery to nursery.
I've been going to all the stores lately.
I was
even
in there
working at one of the stores on the weekends.
Tell me about it.
I wonder if we have like shared experiences now working.
I just love how beautiful it is. Oh, yeah?
Working in the nursery,
You did have to work the nursery on a weekend?
Yes.
Oh, that's rough,
But it was
bud.
crazy. It was fun. I learned so much helping customers, but it's so cool to just hear the questions they're asking, and I'm seeing what's coming in now, and there's just so many beautiful things. So I wrote down some things from my visit I wanted to share that I just thought looked incredible right now. But first, when I got there, I visited the Sac store, and out in the parking lot, there's this little scene I came across, and it was so cool. It was one of our growers, Los Arroyos. A representative was there showing our buyers some new plants.
Ooh, their offerings.
Yeah, it was like out of the back of their truck, and there's all these beautiful plants there. I was like, ooh, what's going on over here? So I came in, said hi, and then just kind of took a step back and listened in on the conversation. It was fascinating to hear what they're talking about. They're looking at all these different plants, thinking about what they already have, thinking about what new things to bring in, thinking about what their customers are asking for.
Like what will be the trend this year?
Yeah, and definitely they're looking at more natives, but there's just so many cool options there, and like beautiful new things. It was just really cool to see that dynamic at play. And I just thought it was fascinating.
Well, it's interesting, the relationship. You have the production nurseries, you have the retail nurseries, and then you have the customer.
Right.
And you're hoping everybody is happy and makes out and gets what they want. And hopefully it all ends up with us all having beautiful, delicious, bountiful gardens and landscapes.
I know. There's so many cool new salvias. That was really cool.
Sage, man, there's so many. The salvias, I love them. They're actually going to come up in my recap, because there's so many different uses for them, and they will actually maybe just be helpful in this week's topic.
Interesting. Okay. So then I went and toured the nursery, and I found a bunch of cool things that were popping right now.
Oh, the color right now.
So I'll give you a quick rundown. And this comes from last week. I was checking out the mandavillas that Katie Tammany was talking about
Tropical
from Monrovia.
vine.
Monrovia's got these giant peach mandavillas. And the color, it was so unique and beautiful. It's this beautiful peachy orange color on these big, pretty, incredible looking mandavillas. And they're all vining up.
Trellised up a little bit,
Yeah, they're just looking incredible right now. And then there was so many different kinds of lavender that was popping.
Oh, yeah.
Those were looking beautiful and drawing me in with their scent. They were beautiful.
At the school, man, our Spanish lavender is like a wave of purple these last few weeks. It's been wild.
Nice. And they're good for the bees.
Oh,
right?
dude, you know it, buddy.
So some scabiosa was standing out.
The pincushion.
The hostas. And then I saw this new thing I've never seen before, meadowsweet.
A stilby?
A stilby, yes. I didn't know it. It's kind of got this wild, natural look. And these delicate, had all these kind of pale white flowers on the top. It looked like something a butterfly would be attracted to. It was very beautiful.
A little texture, a little movement.
It was the texture. That's what I really liked about it. It was very, very cool. So that's just a quick rundown of the things I was looking at that were catching my eye, but there's just so much to see. So I encourage everyone go check out what's coming in right now.
Austin over here, he's a thriller, he's a filler, and he's spilling the tea, giving us all the gossip on the nursery. I love it.
I know. I just got so excited to kind of, get a sneak peek behind the scenes, and then also just what's hot and new. And I just thought it was a blast.
Well, it's fun. We always talk about how fall is for planting, and it's a great time to plant. Spring, obviously, another great time to plant. But the one thing for me that sets spring apart from fall is the availability. You can actually see plants in their prime, what they're going to look like, and you really get this, I think for me, a greater selection. So right now, if you're curious, I like just going down to the nursery. I have one not too far from where I live. I'll just go down there with my kid or my kids, all three of them, and we'll just walk around and just to see what's new, see what's blooming. And we get so many fun ideas of things to plant, things to bring home. And so I just highly suggest that. Just walk it. Just walk that nursery. Get those steps in. 10,000 steps in a nursery every week.
Ooh.
I think that'll lengthen your life.
Definitely.
Can't make any guarantees, but
yeah. So now let's switch gears.
Yeah.
So we have this fascinating topic I never thought we would get into.
No.
And going into it, I wasn't sure what to think, and then I became fascinated. I learned so much. It's really thanks to our guest. We had a phenomenal guest.
Spark plug.
Luce, and she is from the Sacramento Yolo Mosquito Vector Control District, and she taught us all about mosquitoes. Kevin, what did you think about this?
I didn't know what to think going in the interview. When I stepped out there, I was like, I loved that. She was delightful. The information, the conversation, really interesting. And I think and it does kind of resonate with gardeners and growers, people, if you're going to be outside and you want to enjoy your landscape. Mosquitoes are part of the situation. We love talking about insects and bugs and, all the creatures and arthropods. We love all that stuff here because I think the more information you have, then that becomes powerful. If anything, kind of maybe give you a little stress relief, a little more knowledge. But mosquitoes, I think, can, spread really difficult, nasty diseases.
Yeah.
And so
they're bad.
It's a thing, right? And so to learn about that and how we can kind of all do our part. This is kind of a cool thing about maybe having relationships with your neighbors, your community members, people that you live, around, because we all kind of play a part. And I think in this episode we'll learn a little bit about that, but also just learn about mosquitoes. They're fascinating, and so I really enjoyed it.
Cool. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. I totally agree. I learned a lot. Came away with more respect for mosquitoes, which is kind of a surprise. Hated mosquitoes always, but let's go ahead and learn all about how to control these annoying little insects known as mosquitoes. Let's talk to Luce. We sat down with her at the Green Acres Nursery and Supply in Elk Grove. Let's jump into it. Here we go.
So thank you so much for sitting down with us, Luce. You are the Public Information Officer for Sacramento Yolo Mosquito and Vector Control.
That is correct, yes.
So what does that actually mean?
Thank you so much for having me, first of all. So the Sacramento Yolo Mosquito Vector Control District, we are the local agency charged with protecting residents against mosquitoes and mosquito-transmitted diseases. Obviously, everyone knows what a mosquito is, but a vector is a little more obscure, right? So a vector is any animal that can transmit a disease to another animal or to a person. So a vector is like a carrier. In the mosquito world.
Yes, and probably less carriers of these horrible diseases, the better.
Of course, yeah. So because at our district we also deal with ticks and yellow jackets, that's why we needed to include the word vector in our name. So.
There's more organisms that you cover.
Exactly.
Very cool. Well, we're here today. We love insects. We love bugs, even the ones that are pesky.
Yes.
We love to learn about them because with knowledge, comes power. With power, we can maybe have some positive effect on our surroundings.
Correct, yes.
So hopefully we can learn a little bit today from you about mosquitoes. I know, like you mentioned, they are vectors for disease. What are some of the most prevalent and worrisome diseases that get spread? Because I'm not sure if everybody knows that when you get bit by a mosquito, each bite is potential.
Yes.
So what are we worried about?
Yeah, that is correct. So the most prevalent mosquito-transmitted disease in our area is West Nile virus. West Nile virus came to California in 2003, and ever since now it's here every year, right? It's endemic in our area.
How did
we
it
see
get
it
here?
every year. So it actually came. The theory is that it came from New York via a bird. So birds, they're susceptible to West Nile virus. So birds such as jays, crows, magpies, house finches, they get West Nile virus. So that's how the cycle of West Nile virus is. An infected bird, a mosquito bites that bird, the mosquito will get infected, and then it could bite a new bird or a person or a horse. So West Nile virus, again, the most prevalent disease, but there's also been recent concerns with dengue with the introduction of the new invasive mosquito species that are very well established in our area. There's also now the risk for dengue.
Oh no, dengue fever?
Yes,
Don't
correct.
want any of that.
No. We do not.
So you mentioned new species so we have a native species of mosquito.
Yes.
Okay. Do we like it?
So actually within our area, within Sacramento, Yolo County, we have about 24 different species of mosquitoes that are active year round. And most of them are native, so just those last two, they are invasive. They've been here since 2019 in our area. In California since 2011, they've made their way throughout the state. So they're here with us too, and of course they pose the risk for these new exotic diseases like dengue, that every year we see travel-related cases of dengue, but now the risk is that since these mosquitoes are here, that there will be local transmission of dengue.
Okay, well we want to avoid that.
Yes, we definitely
now that we know mosquitoes are these vicious little vectors, and we know what the diseases they spread, how do we avoid that? What are the things that a lot of our listeners are just normal, everyday people who just love to be outside and garden. And we want to help them, and we want to help their neighbors or communities. I think we're all in this together a little bit, right? We kind of share this responsibility. Is the goal to eradicate all these mosquitoes, or is it just to kind of curb and limit them?
Definitely curb and limit them. And then, of course, if we eradicated them, then I wouldn't have this job, right? Then I couldn't be talking to you here.
Yes.
So the goal is always to keep mosquitoes to, levels that are not going to pose a threat to the residents, right? So as a regular resident, what am I worried about, right? Like, I want to make sure that I'm not breeding mosquitoes on my property. Mosquito control is a collaborative effort. We want everybody to do their part. And the biggest part that a resident can do is making sure that they don't have stagnant water on their property. That's going to go a long way in making sure that they don't have mosquito breeding in their yard. I think it's really important that we mention that a lot of people don't know that before mosquitoes fly, they actually grow in water, right? So that plant saucer, that dog dish, the fountain, the bird bath, the bucket.
The clogged gutter.
Exactly.
Talking to me.
If we look in our yard, we can find so many different sources, right? So we have to be diligent to at least once a week look around our yard and dump out any of that stagnant water, and that's going to go a long way in reducing mosquito populations, not only in my yard, right, but for the neighborhood, because we're concerned about the public health impacts that mosquitoes can have. So, of course, draining that stagnant water is going to be number one.
And that's water that's stagnant, so still. It's not moving, like a flowing fountain. Or a water feature that is bubbling and moving.
Would not be an issue. Exactly. Okay. Yeah, that would not be an issue. So with your fountain or your pond, as long as you have a water feature that's moving, even 10 minutes a day, a couple of times a week is going to be enough to not breed mosquitoes. So, I get that question a lot. But yeah, as long as the water is running, it'll be okay. But it's that stagnant water that just kind of sits there, becomes smelly. And that's actually what attracts the females to go and lay their eggs in those sources.
Well, can we talk a little about the life cycle of mosquitoes, because it's pretty fascinating.
Yes.
So you actually brought something pretty cool. The listeners can't see it, but Lucy, you brought in a treat, some show and tell. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit?
Yes. So I brought in a life cycle container that actually shows the different stages in a mosquito life cycle. So females look for a source of stagnant water. They lay their eggs on top of the water. They can lay between 50 to 200 eggs at a time, a couple of times a week. Those eggs hatch into a larva. A larva looks like a little tiny wiggly larva, and then from a larva it turns into a pupa or like a mosquito cocoon.
Well, they're almost like tadpole-like.
Yeah,
the larvae. They're just very small.
They definitely are. They're like little wormy-like larvae that are kind of.
And some of them look like little shrimp, kind of fluttering around. Is that the first?
Yes.
Stage,
no. So the little shrimp ones, those are all pupa or pupae for plural. So yeah. So first stage is the egg, then you get the larva, then you get the pupa, and then from there you get the adults that emerge. And this whole life cycle depends on temperature. So the hotter it is, the quicker they will complete their life cycle. So in the peak of summer, they can go from an egg to an adult in as little as 4 to 7 days.
Wow.
Which is why we have so many more mosquitoes in the summer. People always ask, like, when is mosquito season? Well, we actually have mosquitoes year round. We just don't notice them because in the winter, we're inside, right? We're not wearing shorts, so we don't get bitten. But we do have mosquitoes year-round. But the peak of mosquito season is, April through October.
It's like our growing season.
Exactly, with the peak being those hot summer months.
So now the females lay the egg, they hatch, they grow. Do the males serve a purpose in this?
Well, actually, that's another fun fact. The male mosquitoes do not bite.
Because we're nice.
Exactly.
We're
so even in the animal kingdom, the ladies are not very nice. But no, yeah, so the males do not bite. That's an important characteristic. The males live significantly less than the females, and then the one good thing is obviously, they're all part of the food chain, right? But males, they feed on nectar, so they're pollinators.
Interesting.
So that's one good thing about mosquitoes.
Wow, yeah, you don't hear too many positive things about mosquitoes, but
exactly.
You're right. They are part of the food web. Actually, I asked my students today. I was like, hey, I'm going to go speak with an expert on mosquitoes. I was like, what would you ask? And they were like, are they good at all? Like, is there a purpose to them? And is there a purpose to mosquitoes?
Not really. Aside from giving me this job that I mentioned already, that's the main one. But no, I mean, they mainly help with pollination. Obviously, they're part of the food chain. They're food for dragonflies, for bats, for birds. So yeah, that's their.
Okay. So there are some positives,
yes.
But we want to limit. Yeah, we got to accentuate the positive. When it comes to mosquitoes, so you mentioned draining that water. Are there any what are the best practices for someone who's just going to be outside in their garden? What would you recommend?
Definitely, well, a couple of different things, right? So covering up, so maybe, if you can wear some long sleeves and pants, cover up your skin, obviously it's going to get really hot soon, so you don't want to be wearing long sleeves and pants. So then in that case, then you would want to protect yourself with an effective mosquito repellent, right? We always advocate that people always protect themselves by using a repellent because it's going to prevent bites, and then of course that would prevent the disease, right? So we don't advocate for specific repellent. We just say find one that you like and use it. Very important when you look at a mosquito repellent, there's different varieties, right? There's wipes, there's lotions, there's oils, there's sprays. Very important to look at the label because all repellents have an active ingredient. So most repellents either have DEET, picaridin, and then on the label it says the percentage, right? So most repellents have between 5 to 30% of that active ingredient. So it's important for you to consider the activity that you're going to be doing. If you're going to be gardening at home for about an hour, something that has 5 to 15% is going to give you adequate protection, 1 to 2 hours. However, if you're going to go hiking, if you're traveling to a mosquito-infested area, you need more longer-lasting protection. So something that has 30 or 40% of that active ingredient is going to be best. So think about it like sunscreen,
it's like how concentrated, how strong it is.
Yeah, the longer the protection, the duration.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Are there any studies, or have you noticed that do some individuals get bit more often? Because I swear, I know I mentioned I just got bit a few times, but typically I fare pretty well with mosquitoes. I'll get a bite here or there. But when my wife is out in the garden with me, she'll come in and she'll just be like marked up, just bit up like she was a buffet.
She must be a sweet lady.
I think she is. That's what I always say.
Right. Well, actually, no, I get that question all the time as well. So actually, mosquitoes are attracted to smells. So they can smell the CO2 in our breath. That's what's going to attract them to us. But it just depends on our overall body chemistry. Unfortunately, some people are just naturally more attractive to mosquitoes than others. All kinds of myths out there.
My wife's very attractive.
Oh, there you go. That it may depend on your blood type. That has nothing to do with it. It's all our overall scent. Like, for instance, a good combination for attracting mosquitoes is if you're out jogging, you're like panting, you're panting hard, you're sweating, so that will make you more attractive. They say that mosquitoes have really good eyesight, so dark colors are better than lighter colors, I believe, or it might be the other way around. I can't remember. But in general, it's your overall body chemistry.
Yeah, very cool. Mm-hmm. What makes the invasive mosquitoes different than our native ones? How is their behavior different, or is it just biology and they're just happen to be different?
So their behavior is definitely different. So our native mosquitoes, they primarily bite at dawn and dusk, right? Our invasive mosquitoes, they're aggressive day-biting mosquitoes. They will bite during the day, at all times. They're primarily ankle biters. They prefer to bite people.
Wait, are you talking about my kids? Or are you talking about mosquitoes?
Mosquitoes,
okay,
yes.
Ankle biting, day biting, okay.
So also they don't fly very far from where they lay their eggs, right? So it's like if we go to your house and we find invasive mosquitoes in your yard, they probably laid the eggs in a source that you have there. Whereas our native mosquitoes, depending on the species, they can fly 2, 5, 10 miles, right? Wow. These will stay, very close to where they lay their eggs, and then they have very distinct markings on their thorax. So for instance, they have they're a smaller, darker mosquito than our native one. They have some stripes on their body. Also, the biggest difference is that they will lay their eggs not necessarily on top of the water, but they will lay their eggs along the edges of a container, right? So they will lay the eggs around the edge of a container, and then even if that container dries up, the eggs will still be viable. They'll still, even if they're dry, they're just gonna hang out and wait for that container to be refilled with water, and then they'll hatch. And they can survive dry for up to 6 months.
Wow.
Terrible. So
that's not good.
No. So that's like kind of an uphill battle with these mosquitoes. We call them game changers because they really kind of came to upend the way that we do our work. We discovered them for the first time in Sacramento County in 2019, but now in one area, but now they're everywhere. So we have large infestation areas throughout both Yolo County and Sacramento County of these 2 invasive mosquitoes. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, the risk with these is that they can transmit new debilitating diseases such as dengue, right? So the risk would be, as an example, like let's say I travel somewhere, I get sick with dengue, I come back here, one of these mosquitoes bites me, that mosquito gets infected, then it bites you, you haven't traveled anywhere, but you can get sick. So that's how locally acquired diseases are happening. And for the first time ever in California in 2023, we had 3 locally acquired cases of dengue, all in Southern California. Last year, that number jumped to 18. This year, it's still too early. This is a fall mosquito, so it's not active quite yet. But, we could have more local virus transmission of dengue, and that's the real risk.
Well, we want to avoid that. Are there any insects that we know about that eat these?
That eat mosquitoes?
Yeah, because you always hear about the mosquito eater. Is that even a thing?
No, it's not.
I'm so glad I got you here,
I
Luce.
want to work for that campaign because everybody knows that. Everybody thinks that those are mosquito eaters, and that's a myth. Like, I don't know who started that, but
it just sounds fun, I think.
I know, right? Crane flies, totally different, unrelated insect. Similar, or they also have the same aquatic life cycle.
Yeah.
But as adults, they don't do anything. They only live for about a couple of days, and their only job as adults is to mate. So they are here for the fun and out. So.
Can't complain. Okay, sounds like a fun way of life.
Exactly. But
they don't eat any mosquitoes.
They don't eat mosquitoes. They don't even bite. So as adults, they don't even bite. They don't have the mouth parts to bite. Yeah, they're totally harmless, but they're scary, right? They fly in your face.
I'm just glad they're not actually mosquitoes. Could you imagine a mosquito that big, size of a $50 or whatever?
But so many people think that those are mosquitoes. They'll be like, "Oh, I only have the giant mosquitoes, not the little ones." Whereas, these are
You're like, no, those big ones are harmless, not a mosquito.
Yes.
Those little ones will get you.
Correct.
So you mentioned dragonflies earlier. Love those insects,
Yes.
and they do eat mosquitoes, and I think they have a similar cycle as well. Can you?
Exactly, yeah, that's correct. So we love dragonflies all around. So they also start their life in water, and in the aquatic stages of their life, they eat the baby mosquitoes that
They're
would be
scary
developing.
looking too. Have you seen the close-ups of the
I think
larvae?
they're called naiads. Yeah, they're big, but yeah, they feed on the immature stages of mosquito, and then of course as adults, not only are they pretty to look at, but they help us with controlling mosquitoes. So yes, dragonflies are
okay. So
awesome.
dragonflies, good. We
Yes.
love them. Yeah, such a beautiful creature too. Very cool. Very cool. Now, when it comes to this larva, you mentioned that if the water's flowing, they're not going to be, it's not sustainable for them or viable.
Right.
What are other than having the water dumped out or flowing? Let's say I have a fountain, a bird bath, and I love feeding my birds. I know we talk about here about pebble trays
Yes.
to water our bees. What are things that we can do maybe for our bird baths and some of our fountains and things where we may have slow to still water, where we can hopefully take care of these larvae before they become full-blooded, biting, vampiric little beasts?
Creatures, yeah, exactly. So, one good thing, like for instance, if you have water that's rotating, that's constantly moving, it's not going to cause a problem. But if you have a fountain at home and you're going to go on vacation for 2 to 3 weeks and you can't run that pump, there are different mosquito control products available. I always recommend, going into your local
Green Acres Nursery and Supply.
Exactly. Go into Green Acres and ask for, to let them know what your issue is, and they can recommend maybe some bits, like little products that you can add to the water. There's something called a mosquito dunk. You can always ask for that as well. There's a variety of products on the market that you can spray perhaps around your yard, do what we would call a barrier treatment. So spray your foliage where mosquitoes would be resting. So yeah, there's a variety of different products that you can use. As a district, we don't endorse any specific product, but we always say, feel free to go into your Green Acres and ask for a recommendation.
I appreciate that. Yeah, because the products are out there, and there's many different companies and different ones that you can kind of research and look for and find the right one for your situation.
Exactly. Yes.
Very cool. What would be your best tips for somebody who is their first time, like a new homeowner, they move some in, maybe they're renting and they want to take good care of their spot? What are all the considerations for like a walkthrough? You mentioned earlier too when we were getting warmed up that you guys sometimes will come do home visits?
Yeah, exactly. So a part of our free services that we offer as a mosquito control district, who doesn't, right? So we offer free home service inspections. If you're having issues with mosquitoes and you don't know where they're coming from, you can call us and we'll go out free of charge. Come out, give you recommendations, maybe do a walkthrough of your yard and let you know, okay, that could be a source, that could be, be careful with this or that. So we do offer those free home service inspections. We also offer free mosquito fish. You know what those are?
Yeah, I love it.
So mosquito fish are great. They help us control mosquitoes naturally. So if you have a pond at home, a fountain, maybe a horse trough, anything that's like, deep would be and has water is a good home for those fish. So we give them free of charge. We can deliver them to your doorstep. So take advantage of those free services. Obviously, we always recommend that people again do a walkthrough and make sure that you don't have any stagnant water on your property. That would be, the number one tip. And then staying protected, really, at the end of the day, you want to prevent mosquito bites because that's how you're going to prevent disease.
For sure. How can folks best get a hold of you?
So if you visit us, www.fightthebite.net. You need to remember fightthebite.net. You can go on there, you can request a free home service inspection, any of our services. If you forget that, you can just Google mosquito control in Sacramento or wherever you live. Almost every county in California has a mosquito control district. So, programs function a little bit differently, but you can get help from your local mosquito control district.
Well, Luz, thank you so much for making time for us. I learned so much from you. I love your energy, your enthusiasm, and your knowledge was absolutely incredible. I learned so much. I hope our listeners got to appreciate it as well, because I think it's up to all of us to do a little bit, do our part to drain that water and to kind of curb the disease and keep those vectors under control a little bit.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. My pleasure. Remember to fight the bite and drain that water, wear that repellent, and keep yourself safe for mosquitoes as we get into the season.
So thanks again to Luz Maria Robles of the Sac Yolo Mosquito Vector Control District. We really appreciated your time and the lesson. And hopefully we can have a summer with just a few less bites out there. Because think of the lives we could potentially save, Austin. And just those pesky bites are uncomfortable. I know my wife will appreciate a few less mosquito bites. So until next week, garden friends, please get out in that garden. Go have some fun. Right now, top of our checklist is plant, plant, plant. It's that time of the season, friends. So until next week, have a great week. Be good to yourself and be good to others. And we'll see you back here next week for another great episode of the Green Acres Garden Podcast. Happy gardening to you all. And please, never stop growing.
Get out of here. Fight that bite.